And welcome to Whiskey Politics. I'm Dave Sussman, your host and purveyor at Whiskey Politics. You can find me at Dave Sussman. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube. You can find us on all of your favorite podcast applications, including Apple Podcast and the Ricochet Audio Network. Really excited about today's guest, Burgess Owens. Yeah, that Burgess Owens. He was a first-round draft pick for the Jets in 1973 and was a regular starter for the Jets all through the 1970s. And he was also part of the Raiders' 1980 Super Bowl championship that was held actually during the Iranian hostage crisis. Now, he's a best-selling author, a frequent contributor to the Fox News channel, and his books, Liberalism, or How to Turn Good Men into Whiners, Weenies, and Wimps, and his latest book, Why I Stand From Freedom to the Killing Fields of Socialism, can both be found at Amazon. And oh, by the way, he's also running to flip a very flippable seat in Utah's 4th Congressional District to help take back the House for the Republicans. And you can find more information about that at burgessforutah.com. Welcome, Burgess. Great to see you again. How are you, good sir?
Dave, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to chatting with you once again, for sure.
Likewise. I always appreciate it. You're a fantastic fountain of knowledge. You know exactly what is going on. But the most important question that I have for you is the first question. As a former Raider, how do you feel about the moving to Las Vegas?
Well, the timing is good. I have not been keeping up as much as I did in the past, but I think Vegas will be a good spot for them. There's a beautiful stadium down there. And believe it or not, I'm in Utah now. So we're getting a lot of Utahns going to become Raider fans. And they're going to have fun. As long as they start winning games, it's going to be a blast to be out of Vegas for sure. So hopefully that will be the case.
Yeah, I lived in Vegas for a number of years as well. In fact, headed up to Utah quite often. It's a beautiful, beautiful state. Tell us a little bit about the campaign, why you're running, what the 4th District looks like there for you.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm one of those guys for a long time. Up until about 9 months ago, would say, in terms of being a politician, I would never, ever, ever be one. And so my passion has been, actually for a couple of years, is how can I impact our at-risk population of youth, our kids that are going into the juvenile system, coming back out too regularly, going back in, I should say. And I realized about 8 or 9 months ago that if we don't do something to get the house back, that our kids don't have a chance here, don't have a chance elsewhere, because the left does the best of going after our most vulnerable. So my goal right now, we have a district which Mia Love lost, District 4, very, very red. And yet last time around, they were able to pull it out by 700 votes. So my goal, very simply, is to get our base energized, to have a message that liberals, for these independent and for Democrats, they can get behind and understand that if we focus on our kids, then we can really have a lot in common and move this thing forward. So we're gonna win it back right now. Ben McAdams is the Democratic representative. He votes strictly with the Democratic Party, which is against the district's values. And so I'm looking forward to having that opportunity to have a conversation and get our district back to where it should be, deep red.
When's Utah's primary?
We have first of all the convention, and that's going to happen at the end of this month, March, and then we have the primary after that in April, around end of April. So it's going to be a very, we have about 3 or 4 different primary opponents that we're running with that. So it really takes some work. But I think the message that I have, and let me share that with you real quick. So when I keep coming back to these tenets, you'll understand what that means. There was a present given to us by Booker T. Washington. It was one that served the Black community well throughout the 1900s, which allowed us to, at that time, believe it or not, be the most competitive minority in our country, leading our country in the growth of the middle class, men matriculated from college, men committed to marriage over 70%, and percentage of entrepreneurs over 40%. So that was kind of the community I grew up in, but it was a tenets that allows every culture to do the same, that is, get to the middle class. And that comes down to head, heart, hands, and home. Education, God, industry, and family. If we get back to having those kind of conversations, we win as a people. And there are good people in every single party that believe in those tenets, that believe that we should give our kids a much better future. And we need to start having conversations about how to get that done. The problem is we have in the Democratic Party, Marxists and socialists that don't want us to communicate. That has got to the point now where good people cannot talk because we worry about everybody being upset or it's politically incorrect. It is we the people's greatest strengths when we can get together, use our minds and our ability to find solutions and talk through and find out a way that our kids can have a much better future than we have. And so that's the goal. And those 4 tenets will allow us to do that.
You know, this sounds to me like it's common sense, Burgess, and I think there's a tremendous lack of common sense that we're hearing today coming from some of our politicians. And you refer to the Democrats right now, but, you know, as a Black Republican that is running, and we're seeing this all across the country right now, the Republicans, especially under President Trump, they're seeing Black support ranging from 30 to 40% for support for this president. I don't know if that's going to turn into 30 to 40% of the Blacks voting for President Trump, but let's say it's even half of that. You know, the Democrats can't win without at least 92% Black support for whoever that candidate's going to be. How do you see that playing out here for 2020?
Boy, David, you just nailed that. You summarized it perfectly. At the end of the day, people have to recognize that the Democratic Party has been really good at use, abuse, and discard. They've used the Black community for decades. They've abused the Black community for decades. And every 4 years they come out making new promises. Now they're realizing that because of President Trump is getting results, he's actually having impact in so many ways. We can talk about in the next few minutes. They realize that they're not going to get that 92 to 93% that they need. And you're right. Right now, there's 35% of Black Americans saying they have a very positive impression of Trump. All we need is 15 to 20%. That will be a game changer. They can no longer hold on to this as their base. And by the way, that's why the left wants open borders. These people could care less about our country, about our citizens, about the health and welfare of our nation. They care about their power. And they will bring people in this country who have no idea about our culture, can't speak our language, do not understand the American way, still have loyalty to their country, and they'll bring them in just so to get them dependent and get their vote. So Americans are waking up. The great thing about our President Trump is that he's a different president. He can care less about power. He doesn't care about the money. He loves our country. And because of it, he puts together policies that are not Black policies or white policies or Hispanic. They're American policies that work. So everyone across the board is feeling the impact, whether it be Black, Hispanic, Asian, women, teens. Everyone is seeing great things happening. They see the hope coming back. And anybody who's around it and can understand what's happening, we should all be very, very excited and about the fact that so many Americans are being impacted in such a positive way.
One of the discussion points that have come up, I know you've discussed it at length over the years, is the breakdown in the inner city families. Does government have a responsibility to answer for that, or is it something that is just more geared towards the community, the churches, and the private sector?
No, it's the government's job to get out of the way. It's because of government that we have the problems we're having. I mentioned that community I grew up in was such a successful, it was a segregated, deep Tallahassee, KKK environment, Jim Crow, but in my environment, my community was such a positive one because we were taught about love of country, God, family, respect, and we were expected to take off and compete in every environment we could. It was when the government came in, got our at-risk women dependent on welfare, taught our young men that they had nothing to do with being responsible, growing up and protecting, providing, and leading their family. All this is government programs. So they need to get out of the way. We went from 40% entrepreneurs, because that's what we do best when we're the people who are working through the process, to now 3.8% because of government policies, democratic policies. We have, in the state of California, government schools are now the product of that is 75% of the Black boys in the state of California, that's since 2017, cannot pass standard reading and writing tests. So to answer your question, we need to get the power back to we the people. We need to get the Department of Education out of DC and allow people, teachers and mothers and fathers in their own cities to find programs that make those kids, that work for those kids and get them moving forward. So no, the government is not the answer, it's the problem. And we now have a president who's beginning to pull back and draw that power down to where it needs to be. And that's why the left is so frantic. They're panicking because the power they thought they had through Obama and the rest of those lackluster presidents, they're finding out they're losing it.
You know, I agree with everything that you just said, Burgess, but there's a huge number of people that are in this country, many of them are on the left, that believe that not only is government responsible for taking care of these problems, but they're also responsible for paying back for sins of the past. Last June, you provided testimony to a House Judiciary Subcommittee regarding a bill advocating reparations for slavery. I think that was from Sheila Jackson Lee. She's a Texas Democratic representative. She sponsored the bill, and you spoke in front of the committee, and we're just going to play a quick clip right here.
I'm going to talk about some ideologies, and when I talk about them, when I talk about people, people change. I used to be a Democrat until I did my history and found out the misery that party brought to my race. So when I talk about these ideologies don't change, people do. We are fighting for the heart and soul of our nation against socialism, Marxism, and the evil that it has brought to us in the stealing of our history. Karl Marx said it best, the father of socialism, an atheist, anti-Semite, and a blatant racist. Yet we teach his philosophy in our school systems today. He said it, the first battleground is rewriting of our history. You steal our history, you steal our pride in our past, our appreciation for our present, and our vision for our future. And every single urban city in our country is now experiencing that loss. I do not believe in reparation, because what reparation does, it points to a certain race, a certain color, and it points them as evil, and points the other race, my race, as one that is not only becomes racist, but also beggars. I do believe in restitution. Let's point to the party that was part of slavery, KKK, Jim Crow, that has killed over 40% of our black babies, 20 million of them. State of California, 75% of our black boys cannot pass standard reading and writing tests, a democratic state. So yes, let's pay restitution. How about a Democratic Party pay for all the misery brought to my race? And those, after we learn our history, decide to stay there, they should pay also. They're complicit. And every white American, Republican or Democrat, that feels guilty because of your white skin, you should need to pony up also. That way we get past this reparation and recognize that this country has given us greatness. Look at this panel. It doesn't matter how we think. The fact is, well, it doesn't matter our color. We have become successful in this country like no other because of this great opportunity to live the American dream. Let's not steal that from our kids by telling them they can't do it. Thank you.
Talk to us a little bit about your perspective. First of all, tell us how you got invited to this subcommittee and what your perspective was.
Okay, I was invited because of a Wall Street Journal ad that I put in, speaking about my great-great-grandfather who came here in a belly of a slave ship and ended up, years later as he grew up, owner of 102 acres of land, the founder of his first black church, first black elementary school, pillar of his community, very proud American. So the point I was making is that Americans across the board have come here and experienced the American way. The black community is no different than the rest of us. Understand what the left does. They know that there's no way that Americans going to ever pay for something that they had nothing to do with. For us to be looking back in the past, 200 years ago, for people we don't know, when the ancestors, most of these people have no idea who they are, and talk about Americans paying for them, it's not going to happen. But what the left does, very simply, put it out there to give these folks who don't understand, don't know how to have the education, they give them hope that some kind of way they'll give them a freebie until they get their vote. And then when they get their vote, they get elected, they will not come through because they know they can't come through. That's the way the left works. So I think first, listen, and so it points to my race, as I mentioned in the clip there, points to my race not only as beggars, but we become racist because we look at other people as that fault for where we are today. This country is built on the dear Christian values that says there's accountability, that we can look at each other from inside out, not outside in. And with that, we can find people of like minds who work together, and we find solutions, we become wealthy, we become freer, those kind of things that happen only when we understand the values of our nation. And that's why I go back to those four tenets. Those values represent what it takes for us to succeed, become part of the middle class, and those who hate those values, the left, are the same ones that come in with their answers being themselves.
Burgess, how do we do that today when we are so divided? Now, I know everybody thinks we're divided. I personally believe we're not that divided. I think probably a good 60 to 80% of us agree on the results we want. We may just disagree on the means on how to get there, large centralized government versus the private sector. But we got the 10% on the extremes that are making the most noise. They get the most news. How in this divided time do we sit down with Democrats? How do Democrats sit down with Republicans and try and actually find constructive solutions?
Well, that's a good question, Dave, because what we have to do is recognize who believes in the values we believe in. If we're dealing with a Democrat that hates our country, like the ones that we sit on their hands in the State of the Union, that we have successful Americans and they sit on their hands because they didn't do it, because they hate to see success from another party, there's no talking with those kind of people. And we have to understand, we have to be honest about this. We're fighting for the heart and soul of our nation. The Democrats, independents we want to talk with are those who applaud other American success. The ones that said we want our kids, all kids, to be educated. We want to make sure that God is allowed for everybody to have faith and worship in the way they want to. We don't want to negate it the way that the godless left wants to negate it. Those who want to work and can work need to work. We cannot be dependent. So those four tenets come back to those people we can talk with. The other ones understand there's no getting around the fact that we have evil coming at our doorstep. People who do not want our country to survive, they're in your face now. They call themselves socialists. They call themselves Marxists. Look at what they've done in every country they've gone to. They've brought nothing but misery. Go to the cities of Philadelphia, Detroit, Chicago. Nothing but misery, pain, anger. So let's make sure that we're elevating our conversation with those who can't talk with us, and those people we can talk with. Let's agree to disagree. But at some point, we need to figure out a way to get back those four basic tenets that keeps our country moving forward.
You're seeing illegal immigration. You just referred to, some of the people that are coming in from across the borders onto our shores. And I'm a legal immigrant. I came here as a kid. I became naturalized at the age of 19. I had to stand there in the convention center and raise my right hand and swear my oath to the Constitution with 2,500 of my closest immigrant friends who were doing all the same. And we had to take tests, Burgess. We probably learned more than most high school seniors know about the Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and everything else. Is that something that we can get back to when you've got so many now on the left that have essentially stated that there's no difference between immigration and illegal immigration? If you are against illegal immigrants, you are against immigrants. I mean, that's essentially what we're hearing, especially from the mainstream left news today, isn't it?
Just always remember the source and understand from the left, they can care less about our Constitution. They care less about fairness because it's a godless ideology. We are dealing with people who truly are godless. And when I say that, understand because of that, they will do anything. They have no shame. They have no sense of fairness. They don't want us to follow the Constitution because it was based on Judeo-Christian values. And yes, the reason why you were sitting here today is because you came in and you earned the right to be called an American. You're proud of that point. You're proud to raise your hand. And you want to give back and say, I am an American. I want to be the best I can be. That's what Americans feel. They've always felt that way. The leftists don't feel that way. They'll bring anybody in. They don't want to be called American. They don't want to say the Americans are great because they don't know our history. Yeah. And the problem we're having is we have the cowards and bullies that they are, and they hide it like termites in our very foundation. They go into the college situation, get tenure, where we can't fire them because they go in there and they attack our kids. They go into the bureaucracy and they become the deep state. We can't fire them because we don't know who they are, and they get this past in which no one can get rid of them. They go into the underbelly, the soft underbelly of our country, where nobody can find them, and they attack from within. So that's why we're truly at a point where we need to educate. I would love, in my district, we have eighth graders learning the Constitution, debating what it started to make the Constitution what it is, debating the tenets of the Constitution. They can come to DC and teach the Congress about what the Constitution came, because those people in Congress were never sat down and taught about our great country. So let's continue to take pride in the fact that we have earned the right. Some of us, because we were born here like me, those who came here, they did it legally, they stood in line, they paid the price. And to have other people step in front of them, it's just not fair, it's not right, and they will never appreciate the opportunity, the privilege of being American if they don't do it the right way.
Yeah. You refer to Democrats as being godless, and I know that some of our listeners are going to take exception to that. They may think of themselves as classic liberals. They may be Roman Catholic or Jewish or Christian or whatever it may be. I would tend to state that, the idea of taking God out of our culture, taking it out of our public square, taking it out of our education is definitely something that the Democrats have pushed. How do you respond as a man of faith when you see somebody like a Nancy Pelosi standing up there, pushing this obvious, impeachment sham that was so political, when she was pushing it through and stuffing it down America's throats, foie gras style, how she was calling herself prayerful? How would you respond to that?
First of all, I'm glad you helped me to allow me to make that differentiation there, because there are good people in every single party. But we have to understand the Judeo-Christian values is a different value system for people, and Marxism and socialism is another value. Marxism and socialism, the ideologies, is evil. Now, people are not. People choose. I used to be a Democrat, so I understand what it is to believe in something that wasn't good, to wake up one day and realize, wow, that was really bad, and then work toward making a difference by being inclusive and being empathetic and having feelings for people because we love each other based on our who we are. In fact, we're human. So that being said, understand this. There are very good people in every single party. What I encourage those who listen in your audience, let's get back to those 4 tenets. Talk to friends of yours who believe the same thing. Let's figure out a way to get this thing moving forward and recognize within the Democratic Party there is evil there that hates everything that you and I want to believe in. So with Pelosi, and I'll say this about the entire impeachment process, Americans share the same values that I have here in Utah. We ask 2 things. We want people to be fair, because we want to be treated fair. And we want people to keep their word. We have a party that is not fair because they believe in power. They don't keep their word because word to them, they're the North Star. They do anything they want to, and there's no accountability. There's no God in their life. And so with that, you get people who lie, and they lie without any shame. They will say it over and over again until people begin to believe it's true, because you say it enough, people begin to believe it. It's called propaganda. So let's do this. Let's get back to the basics. Let's understand that education, God, industry, and family is the way our country moves ahead. And anybody who stands against that is our enemy. It doesn't matter what party they're in, they're elitists and they're our enemy. We need to understand, be honest about that, because our country is too valuable for us to sit back and be nice and let people destroy what makes our country so good.
This is what I like about you. You're not afraid to say some things that some people would take exception to, yet at the same time, you're trying to bring people together so that they understand it. Because it goes back to what I just said before. I don't think anybody could disagree with what you just said. Again, we may disagree on the policies, but this is just common sense. And I'm finding more and more conservatives today are really on the side of just common sense, where you have this approach coming from the left, as you're talking about, which is just throwing history and statistics and common sense out of the window to push a political narrative, which I don't know. Do you think it's just about power, Burgess?
It's about power. The one thing about the godless ideologies, and I'll say this is, again, we've been at this war for a long time, guys. Karl Marx said back in the 1800s, the first battleground is the rewriting of history. So right there, here's a guy who did not do a thing in his life but be a drag on everybody around him. That's basically saying we need to steal people's history and change it. History is what it is. But the left doesn't mind doing whatever they have to do to steal and take away. And at this point, we just have to understand what we're up against and have the conversations we can have, but understand again that we are in a fight for the heart and soul of our nation, and we cannot stand back and act, put our heads in the sand and act like it's gonna go away, because the other side does not give up. They're tenacious, and they will turn our society around like it did my society, my community, and bring nothing but misery to the end game, and people hurt each other and not feeling good about who they are in our country, to say the least.
We've got Burgess Owens on with us. He is running for Utah's 4th Congressional District, NFL great and author. And you can find his website over at Burgess4, the number 4, Utah.com. We'll have a link below here for you folks. You know, we're talking about Utah. You briefly mentioned it a couple of times here, Burgess. And I got to just ask you, I mean, from the standpoint of what we just went through with the chapter of impeachment of the 45th President of the United States, and the first senator to ever vote for a president in his or her own party for impeachment was, well, your Utah's Senator Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the reception that Utahns have right now for Senator Romney.
Well, we share the same sentiment that people across this country. Again, remember I mentioned we believe in fairness, we believe in keeping our word, and we also believe in if we see evil, which is deep within the Marxist and socialist ideology, we run away from it. One of the things that I've become aware of because of my growth, I grew up now again, deep South Tallahassee. I remember a great community across our country. And I always say this, our greatest enemy was not white supremacists, it was black elitists. Our greatest enemy for our country, guys, is not a Democrat or Republican, it's Democrat and Republican elitists. It's those who could care less about we the people. They hear and they see the great things that our president's doing, and it doesn't matter to them. They want their power, they want to be liked, they want their prestige, and in this case here, that's what Mitt Romney represents. I'm also a member, by the way, of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was offended that he would bring faith into it, because it has nothing to do with faith. It has to do with his choice. He chose to side with the Democrats against a president who the night before, the State of the Union. Can I say this real quickly? That just a segue for a quick second. That State of the Union, I played again in Super Bowl 15. I watched a couple of them as time goes on. That State of the Union was the closest thing I've ever seen to a blowout Super Bowl championship game, 50-0 at halftime. And it was so fun to watch. It was fun. You know, President Trump started off his presidency saying, we're going to win until you're tired of it. Well, he kept going through victory after victory. I said, when is he going to stop? And so that being said, how can you see that kind of winning by our country? Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, teens, women, and then vote to put a president like that out of office because of a phone call. That is not anybody who represents my state. We're going to make sure that that we don't vote for people that will turn on us like that. And anyway, so I think we share the sentiment of most people across the country.
Yeah, and maybe, you know, you're not the person to say this because you're running for Congress, but I think a lot of us really took, I say we felt insulted by his sanctimony. You know, it was just the approach that he took by using his faith and his religion, and we saw this with Nancy Pelosi as well. Is that it was almost a crux for them to make decisions. And what that said to me was that, well, what about all the other people of faith? What about Senator Lee, your senior senator in the state of Utah? He's also very religious. Does that mean that he wasn't following the tenets of his religion?
Yeah, and you just made the point. But again, you know, we talk about the idea of using common sense. And once you get to a certain point, again, on the left, common sense is not something we strive to go. They strive to go for. Common sense means that critical thinking means that we can sit down and truly try to find a solution. So we're engaging, we're thinking through, we're respecting the different thoughts, and we can literally say, let's agree to disagree in a very polite and respectful way. What the left wants to do is shut us down. They hate the idea that anybody can think critically. They can think with common sense because it goes against everything they stand for. Nothing they do, nothing they fight for. Open borders makes no sense to Americans. Making people, making sure that our youth stays dumb and ignorant makes no sense. Pulling God out of the platform and saying we don't need to be worshiping God in any faith makes no sense. So understand the left does not work on common sense and critical thinking, and those of us who do are a threat to the left. That's why we have to make sure we're educating our kids, while we're having conversations like this across the board, so we can think through our solutions, pass those solutions on, and get rid of the leftists that are trying to infiltrate our society and turn our country around.
Before I move on and talk more, horrible things about the left, what are some of the things that the left you think are doing right? What ideas do they have that you support?
Well, I can say this without any question, any qualms. There's nothing they do that's right. Because the left, see, that when you take God out of the equation, it's a self-centeredness. It's a narcissistic approach. It's a me first and everybody else later on somewhere. Where if you start with that approach, there's no vision. There's nothing they're going to do. And everything they will do is strategically put in place to fool us. They will tell us how much they love us. They hug us around our necks and stab us in the back, because that's what leftists do. So no, there's nothing good in socialists, Marxists, and atheists, because there's no God. And if we understand that premise, again, I'm talking about ideology. There are people that can change any single day they want to if they decide that they're unhappy. They don't want people to be miserable like they are. But just know that there's nothing the Democratic Party has on the plate that can help any of us. So just turn around and look at another option. Independent, Republican, look at another option.
Yeah, and I think there's a major issue right now with classic liberals in the Democrat Party. Your Reagan Democrats or your Kennedy Democrats. I mean, Kennedy was a Democrat, asked not what you can do for your country or what your country can do for you, right? And so, the Democrats today have taken the complete opposite. It's all about what can I get from the government. So when we've got a lot of classic liberals, maybe Democrats, that watch this show and they hear what you're talking about. What is your message to them from the standpoint of where their party is today and what their options may be with you and other conservatives?
We would, when I was growing up, we would call them blue dog Democrats. It was a Tip O'Neill's that could sit down with a Ronald Reagan and come up with a plan, a compromise to move our country forward, because they all believe in our country. What blue dog Democrats need to understand is you might want to just take a listen to what President Trump is saying. Forget how he says it. Understand this. He hates bullies, so he's going to fight back in a certain way. You might not have the same personality. Think about what he's doing. Listen to what he is saying, and understand that in the Democratic Party, blue dog Democrats have no place. They do not like you. They don't want you there. Your policies they will not adhere to, and you don't find any true blue dogs that are actually stepping up and standing up against Pelosi. They vote like little lemons, and they run off this cliff because they're told to. It's the only way they survive. Suggesting to all those, again, go back to those 4 tenets, regardless of what party you're in. Find a way to have conversations about those 4 tenets that we can keep our country moving forward, because we love our country, all of us do. And they're good Americans, again, in every single party. We need to understand who our enemy is. And it's those who promote, the AOCs, the people who promote everything that's anti-American, because they can live above the fray in their little place that elitists normally live above everybody else.
Right. Burgess, we just finished with impeachment. It's in the dustbin of history. They brandished this president with the I word. That's what they wanted. They knew they were not going to get the actual removal of the president. But now it seems as if the Democrats, again, headed by Nancy and Adam and Jerry, they're tripling down on removing Trump. We're 10 months away from the election at this point. First, you had the Mueller-Russian collusion that didn't go anywhere. Then impeachment over the Ukraine call. Now they want to remove him from commenting on Roger Stone's ridiculously long prison term recommended by prosecutors. What are you making out of all of this?
It's called desperation, number one. And I'm going to take a different light on that idea of being impeached forever. It's going to be more of a dark stain on their run of this the Democratic Party. What they're willing to do to get rid of a president illegally, using power and not doing a thing for the American people. It's going to be a stain on the Democratic Party. I really believe that. And I tell you again, we talk about the lack of vision. I would suggest go for it. Try to impeach him again before the election and see where that gets you. Because right as it is right now, look at the Trump rallies when people are literally camping out overnight. Camping out overnight so they can go in and listen to a president the next night. It says a lot about when people are waking up. And this is, by the way, Democrats, independents, people who never voted before, because we're feeling good about who we are. And I hope your audience really takes the time to just think about this. I don't think there's been a time in our recent history where more people are feeling better about respect, about a president who's fighting back and who'll stand up He might not, again, might not like the way he does it, but we're doing things today that that no one thought could be happening in 3 years. And the most important thing is that Americans are working like never before, keeping more money like never before. And the hope that we're looking at is there for us. So I would suggest just get ready to go out and be engaged, go out and vote. Let them do that impeachment thing one more time, and it'll just be a much bigger landslide when it comes down to it.
Do you think the impeachment itself actually turned off a lot of, let's call them, classic liberals or moderate liberal voters to the Democrats?
I think it did, because what the voters really look for, I mean, obviously, there's some of us that get more to political foray. Most people are looking at their own lives. They want to be able to put their kids in a better school. They want to be able to have a better job and have more options. They don't want to have 3 or 4 jobs just to make up for what used to be one. They are feeling that today. So I think what's happening is that at the end of the day, we have more people, even that are classic Democrats, that are beginning to take pause. The energy level is not quite as high. I think there's going to be a lot more people that will stay home as opposed to going out and fighting through this process. And either way, those, and I would say to stay home, those on the left, I think more will stay home, because they've gone through this process. They don't have the energy anymore. They're not winning anymore. It's a very demoralizing process over the last 3 years that this country has put us through, particularly on the left. So I think in the end, it's going to be a good day. We'll win the presidency. The key is to get the House back. And if I can just say this for those in the audience, please go to Burgess for Utah. This seat is between 1 and 3 must have for the Democrats to hold on to, keep the power, and for the rest of us to get our country back. So the values we have here can literally be the linchpin to get our country back on the right track. Once we get the House, the Senate, and the presidency, watch out for the next 4 years. What this president's going to do is going to be remarkable.
This is the incredible thing about the House of Representatives, folks. Everybody's talked about the fact that 31 seats that voted for, or districts that voted for President Trump in 2016 flipped to vote for a Democrat congressperson in 2018. Brad Pascal, Trump, campaign big wig. I mean, he knows everything there is to know about campaigning and social media and everything else. He says, they need 18 to take the House back. He has already identified at least a dozen that he thinks are not only just flippable, but are going to flip. They're focusing on several other seats. What do they rate your district right now?
We're between 1 and 3. So that says that I'm glad you kind of educated people on how this works out. We're between the number 1 and number 3 seat in 2020 to win back the House. It's a must-have for both sides. So that's why it's not a Utah conversation. It's a nationwide conversation.
Yeah.
As Dave just mentioned, we get back the House. Watch out. They can no longer go through this wasting time with impeachments. We can now look at infrastructure. We can now look at taking care of those 3 things that are driving our debt, that we can finally begin to have a businessman take a look at and bring us around to where we can really make sure we're taking care of those senior citizens, but giving our young people more options so that they can have even a better income by the time they get to retirement age.
When you're talking to Utahns about the election, Democrats, they carry the media, the mainstream media. 95% of it is basically run, written, and ruled by the Democrats and the leftists. And so when you have a President Trump, much like George W. Bush did back in 2005, that make a statement along the lines of, we need to take a look at Social Security. We need to take a look at Medicare. All of a sudden, you see a Chuck Schumer running out to the cameras saying that Trump wants to get rid of your Social Security. Do people buy that? And how can we have this conversation? Because you're just talking about debt, Burgess. It is a major problem for conservatives when we're taking a look at $23 trillion. So how do we have that conversation without being branded as somebody that wants to get rid of, Social Security and let Granny fall off a cliff?
Well, we have to understand, first of all, we're not going to have a conversation on CNN, MSNBC, and with the libs, the Marxists in the Senate and the state. These people don't care about our country. They'll say anything with no shame. They're not trying to find solutions. They're trying to defeat the president so to get their power back. So understand that right now, there used to be a time where they used to try to convince us of their way. They don't do that anymore. So, are we still there?
Yep. Okay, sorry,
Okay.
Continue. I think we're still going here.
Okay, so there used to be a time where they would try to convince us of their ways. They don't do that anymore. What they do is they look at their base and they use propaganda. They say things that they know are not true, and they say it over and over and over again. So knowing that, recognize that is going to be what we have to deal with. It's the way of our present day society. The great thing is we have a president who can get around them. And that's why they hate the tweeting process. They hate the fact he can communicate with millions of people and get them a different view, because in the past, we would have had to rely on the leftist media that could care less about our country. So we're going to get it done. And I'll say this, why I think of all reasons why we can get it done. There was a book came out with Chris Stewart a few years back called The 7 Miracles That Saved America. It was actually little things that happened throughout our country's history. A letter falling out of a pocket of a soldier that allowed us to win a very critical battle in the Civil War. Little miracles that we just kind of forget. I believe November 8th, 2016 was the 8th miracle that saved America. This is not just us. We're not waking up, thank goodness, but we're waking up because we have a president who is so different, so in your face, that we can't help but see what's happening. We can no longer just stand on the sidelines. And we're seeing good versus bad, good versus evil. We're seeing it. So now we have a chance to finally get back in the fray. And I think because of that, we will be more engaged. We'll be talking further about this. We'll get more Black Americans. For instance, by the way, you see a Black American that's wearing a MAGA hat, please go up and shake their hands and say thank you. These are people on the front line. They care about our country, and they're waking up saying, you know what, enough of the democratic stuff. We see we love our country. We're going to stand for our community. And Donald Trump is doing it for us, and we're proud to say, here's my red hat to prove it. So they can't call him a white racist, all right? They'll call him something else, but that's the way they work.
This is the thing, and we saw this, with the Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett. Dave Chappelle's thing just continues to crack me up. They were so eager. The Democrats were so eager to use that Jussie Smollett lie, and now he's been re-indicted on 6 counts, felony counts, because that was going to serve their narrative. And then they all came out and basically just went quiet after everybody realized that it was because they want they want minorities, they want blacks, they want browns, they want women, they want them to have to depend upon the government to take care of them. And so we're seeing incredible people, brave people just like you, that are coming out and saying, no, we can stand up on our own 2 feet, thank you very much, and we want to take care of our families, and we want to take care of our homes. We don't need the heavy hand of a centralized government to do that for us, because let's take a look at the history, and this is going to be one of my last questions here for you. The history of socialism, the history of blue city governance has only led to chaos in schools, chaos in families, crime, poverty. Do you think people are waking up?
Well, first of all, socialism, once we learn our history, and that's why the left doesn't want to teach our history, over 100 million men, women, and children were killed, tortured, enslaved because of socialism and Marxism through the 1900s. And I'll leave you with this one thought. The greatest 3 words in the history of mankind were put together by our founders that really highlights who we are. It highlights the power of harmony and what the responsibility of each of us to play our part. It's called We the People. We the People says we control our future. We can control where I work, how many kids I have, the travel I have, my return. I control that because I can take part. I can be part of the solution. That is what the left hates. They don't want us to believe that way. We need to get back to teaching our kids that you look in the mirror and you see the person who's accountable for your future. And also, as we look in that mirror, realize that's the person also accountable to make sure other people feel good about themselves. The greatest 9 words that we, the Americans, can give to each other are very simply this: if I can do it, you can do it. We tell our friends, our kids, our family, you go through those obstacles, it can be okay. We've gone through it all and we've come out of it, and we've done our job as Americans to give uplift and hope to those around us that just want to feel and experience the American way. We can do that.
Love it. Love it. Last question for you, Burgess, and everybody, go check out Burgess's website, by the way. It is Burgess for Utah, the number 4 Utah.com. Help him out. Let's see him get through this primary and head to the general. And, we need to flip that district red again. But we're talking about the primaries right now. We're talking about the presidential primary right now. And, you've got the hard left wing, which I don't call it a wing anymore. I think it's just basically the party of socialists with Elizabeth Warren. You've got Bernie Sanders, who looks like he's taking the lead. You've got the media and many Democrats that are calling Pete Buttigieg and Klobuchar moderates. I don't think any of us believe they're moderates. They're leftists. You've got Bloomberg, who looks like he's trying to buy the presidency with his billions, and it may have an impact because everywhere you go on TV, you're seeing nothing but Bloomberg ads. And as a candidate, that's got to be somewhat frustrating for you. Talk to me a little bit about, and Biden going by the way of the dodo bird. Talk to me about your perspective of the Democrat primary right now. Who would you expect to see actually get the nod?
Well, Dave, it doesn't matter in my mind because they have to go up against President Trump. The guy who does such a good job of branding his opponents, whether it be Pocahontas or Pencil Neck or whoever it is. I feel this way about our president. He came as a novice. I mean, he understands, he loves our country. He came as a businessman. He's become more and more presidential in terms of what he can do and how he does it. And his confidence over these last 3 years has gone through the roof in terms of what he can possibly make this country become. And I'll say this also, when you get into the process of serving other people, and as a president who loves our country, that's what he does best. He serves, he goes across his country, he interacts. You can't help but love our country even more. And I believe because of that, he's become even a stronger, God-believing American, which will give us an opportunity to see the true difference in the right and the left. So we're going to have a chance, no matter who it is, for our president to sit up on the stage and compete and debate. And Americans who still love the left will stay home because they're going to be so depressed. Those of us who love our country will come out because we're going to be so excited about it. We want to participate in this latest Super Bowl championship. We're going to be out there celebrating, throwing up balloons, and we're going to win this thing and get our country back. And every American in this country, no matter what part of the end, will benefit from that process.
Nice. Burgess, by the way, great job on the pregame show on Fox Sports before the last Super Bowl. It was great to see you there down in Miami. That was a great game, wasn't it?
It was a great game, and I happen to be an Andy Reid fan because I watched him in Philadelphia. He's a classic guy.
Yeah.
And by the way, Dave, I love any team that you get all these egos and they put it aside. They're selfless. They work together. They give each other credit. And boy, Andy's teams have done that so well. So, and I'm a Raider fan because I'm a Raider, obviously. But boy, when the Raiders not there, KC is going to be my team to get there because they represent our country very well.
So you were happy to see Kansas City come back and have that incredible win.
Absolutely. And guess what? Every single one of those guys was going to the White House. There's no debate.
I don't think you would have seen that with San Francisco, would you?
No, and again, nowadays they're kind of demanding the players act right, but the fact is, it's a grassroots thing for those guys, for KC, and I'm just glad they're there to represent our country well this year.
Burgess, I got to just ask you real quick. You're an author. You're 2 books. You're running for office right now. You're on, a lot of different interviews. You're running around Utah. How do you decompress? What do you do for fun as an ex-NFL great?
Good question. Well, I like to read. And when I get some downtime, I love to read and I love to work out. That's my way.
Good for you. Good for you. Burgess, thank you so much for joining us. Love this conversation. It was illuminating. Best of luck with the campaign. Everybody go check out Burgess4Utah.com. Burgess, the number 4Utah.com. He's got all of his policy and everything. All of his issues are on there and you can learn more about him. And great job. Just fantastic with everything that you're doing. You're one of the pillars of conservatism in the United States today, bringing the country back to greatness. Thank you so much, Burgess.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my friend. I love working with you. Let's get this thing and win our country back. I appreciate the opportunity. I really do.
You got it. Take care, Burgess. Thanks. Cheers. Wow. Isn't Burgess Owens just great? Don't you wish that you could live in Utah so you could vote for Burgess? Well, check him out on his website, Burgess4Utah.com. Anything can help, I'm sure. He's in a very, very tough campaign, but it is a winnable seat. Ladies and gentlemen, this is about taking back the House. And that's one of the most critical things in this election. Even if you're in a deep, 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 deep blue state and you don't think it's going to make any difference, go out and vote for your congressman because that's where it's going to come down. It's really important that we get more Burgess Owens in the House of Representatives so that they can pass the policies and the bills that the president will certainly vote for. And while you're feeling somewhat generous, Help us out here at Whiskey Politics if you can. I always hate to ask, but please go to paypal.me/mywhiskeypolitics, paypal.me/mywhiskeypolitics. Anything can help, whether it's a one-time or a monthly subscription. It definitely helps us continue bringing you fascinating guests like Burgess Owens and keeping the lights on here in the studio. Appreciate you taking the time to join us here at Whiskey Politics. Don't forget to subscribe to us on all of your podcast applications, including Apple Podcasts. Give us a review over there. Share it with your friends and hit subscribe on YouTube so you can watch the videos. And we'll be back again very soon here at Whiskey Politics. I'm Dave Sussman. Cheers.